Hi, and welcome to Prepping Essentials.
Well, here we are in the kitchen again with another in the video series of cooking with your preps, and it's a bit of an offbeat one today, as it's not really cooking per se, but it's on the subject of oils and fats. Oils and fats are an important part of our diet, and they're an important part of any of our cooking. I use a variety of different things when I'm cooking or adding dressing to meals. So for cooking, shallow frying or whatever, I'll use this Fry Light sunflower oil. I'll use vegetable oil, sometimes olive oil. And similarly for actually baking cakes and pastries, I do use a variety of different things. There's an olive spread there. Use that on my toast as an alternative to butter. Bit of a healthy option. And then the more traditional lard and butter for making cakes, pastries and such like, or indeed in the case of butter for adding as a bit of a little cheeky treat to your vegetables. Just smother it with a little bit of butter in the pan. So they are important, and there is a difficulty in maintaining these during an off-grid situation, because the shelf life on these isn't that great. For all of these really, you're talking about short shelf life of a few months. Even in the case of lard and butter and olive spread, you've got to keep these refrigerated. If you left your butter out on the countertop, it's going to be rancid after a couple of days. Similarly, the lard. So you do need to refrigerate these. But even in the refrigerator, again, you're talking a fairly short shelf life of a few months. Now, lard and butter, you can actually freeze these and you can extend the shelf life a little bit. If you take butter as an example, as I say, you can extend the shelf life from a couple of days if it's left out on the counter to a month after the sell-by date, which is normally 3 or 4 months. And if you put it in the freezer before the best by date, you can extend that by 6 to 9 months. So you can extend these by freezing, and really that's your only viable option for long-term off-grid, unless you're actually going to be making these yourselves. There is one other little option with this. You can buy butter in cans with a shelf life of several years, because it's vacuum sealed in the can. But there is an alternative you can do in the home to extend the shelf life of your butter, and also to make it a bit more versatile. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about something called ghee.
Ghee is essentially a form of butter that's had the water content and fat solid content removed through cooking. It's quite often referred to as clarified butter, and it's been used for centuries in Asian cuisine. Unlike regular butter, ghee has a very extended shelf life. You can keep it on the countertop for several months, and you can keep it in a refrigerator for 9 months. And if you can freeze it, the shelf life is extended pretty much indefinitely. Apart from extended shelf life, another benefit of ghee is it can be used for frying, because it has a very high flash point, so it doesn't burn during frying processes like butter would do. So it's got lots of benefits, and that's what we're going to be making today.
Okay, so get started to making our ghee. Simply taking a couple of blocks. This is just regular unsalted butter. There's, I don't know how much there is in this, to be fair. What is it? 250 grams. So 2 blocks, 500 grams or half a kilo of unsalted butter. And literally all I'm going to do is pop this as it is in its block straight into the pan. I'm not making huge quantities of this. I just wanted to show you how it's made. Now this is quite a time consuming thing, and you do have to spend a bit of time looking at it, but literally we'll just pop that onto the pan, onto the heat, and I'll quickly explain what it is that we do. So we've got our 2 blocks of butter in the pan. I've just turned the heat on. It is only on a very low heat. This isn't something that you can do quickly, and all I'm literally going to do is just very slowly melt this butter in the pan. Now you do have to keep a close eye on this because it will try, it is a fat at the end of the day, it will try and boil quite quickly actually, and we don't want it to do that. We want to just gently melt these blocks of butter in the pan. So bear with me while I do this. I'll keep cutting away and then coming back with the different stages of the process. So this will take a while. It's probably about 4 minutes in so far, and we're still waiting for these blocks. I don't know if you'll see them on the video or not, but they're probably reduced by half in size so far. You really can't do this quickly, because if you try and put too much heat on, the butter will actually start to burn on the bottom of the pan. So the object really is to just very slowly melt the blocks. You can see already they're not far off now. But just melt them slowly over a low heat. And once the blocks have melted, then there'll be no more stirring. We then kind of let the pan do its thing. You'll see that at the moment it's not even steaming. It is very, very slowly melting. But gradually as the butter melts, it will start to get hotter and hotter, even though you still have it on a low heat, because it is a fat that you're putting in. So I'll come back to that shortly once the blocks have fully melted, and you'll see the transformation in the pan. We're about 8 or 9 minutes in now, and you can see that now I haven't actually touched the temperature at all on this. In fact, I'm probably at some point going to have to turn it down even more. But you can see that steam's starting to come up, and you can see this white froth starting to appear. And what's happening is the water is evaporating out of the butter, and the milk solids are appearing on the top of the surface. I'm just keeping a close eye on this because I'm going to have to turn the heat down. As soon as I start to see it start to bubble up, I'm going to have to turn the heat down again to prevent it from burning. So I'll just do that now, because I can just see the bubbles starting to form. So I've turned this down. It's all the way down to 3 on my setting on this hob. It goes up to 12, so I'm at 3, which is like a quarter of the available temperature setting. So you can see it now starting to bubble up with the milk solids coming onto the top, the surface. Can you see that bubbling up there? So even though I have turned it down, it will continue to get hotter and hotter, strange as it might sound, as more of the water evaporates out and the milk solids separate, and you're left with the oil, the clarified butter underneath. And that's what we're trying to do. So all I'm doing here is moving the surface around. I'm not putting the spoon to the bottom of the pan at all. And we'll just continue to let this bubble away, probably for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and I'll come back to you then. We're about 10 minutes in now from when the those 2 blocks of butter melted, and you can see that there's a foam spread across the top of the pan, and if I just scrape away, you can see that underneath it's still a cloudy yellow, and it's bubbling away quite merrily there. What we're waiting for, as this reduces and the water steams off, we're waiting for the colour to change underneath and for the liquid itself to become clear. As I said, you can see at the moment, I'm hoping you can on this video, it's a cloudy sort of golden yellow colour at the moment, and as this continues to bubble away and cook, gradually, as all of the milk solids separate out, which is essentially what this froth is, it'll eventually become clear. And once it becomes clear, you'll see a change in this froth on the top. Instead of having the bubbles come up and create froth, the bubbles themselves, when they come up, will just be clear bubbles. And you'll be able to see all the way through this liquid to the bottom of the pan. While you're stirring this, you're not actually stirring it, you're just moving the foam around so that you can keep an eye on what's happening underneath. Do be careful, don't scrape the bottom of the pan, because the milk solids eventually will drop down and form a coating on the bottom of the pan. And you'll see that very clearly once we're finished and we empty this out. So as I say, you can see at the moment it's a cloudy golden yellow underneath. It's quite happily brimming and frothing, creating this foam across the surface. We're just waiting patiently now for this foam to start dissipating. It'll gradually drop to the bottom, and for this liquid underneath to be clear so that we can see all the way down to the bottom of the pan. So I'll come back to you shortly, probably another 10 minutes or so, once we're at that next stage and we can actually see that liquid turn clear. Another 5 minutes has gone by, and I just wanted to point this out. If you listen carefully, I'm hoping you can hear that on the video. You couldn't actually hear the pan cooking before. There's a distinct change now as more and more of the water burns off or evaporates off, and you have more and more oil or fat left behind. And I haven't touched the temperature setting at all on this, but it's becoming more obvious from the bubbles on the surface that the temperature in the pan is increasing by itself because all of this water has been drawn off. So you can tell as you get towards the end of the cooking stage, just by looking at the surface, but more importantly by noticing that change in the sound that's been made while the pan is cooking. There's a distinct difference. I hope it's picked up in the video. If I scrape away some of the surface, you can see it's a lot more vigorous in the way that it's simmering now, because it is becoming more of a fat as this water evaporates off. So we still have a way to go because it's not clear yet. It's still, you can see it's not cloudy per se, it's more clumped together in little kind of globules. Doesn't sound very appetizing, does it? But I hope you get what I mean. So we'll just leave that to its own devices. Give it another 5 minutes and see where we are. We're about 23 minutes in, and I've just scraped a little bit of this foam off the top. I'm hoping that you'll be able to see there's a difference in the bubbles that are coming up now. They're clear rather than frothy, and as I just scrape away at the surface I can actually start to see now the bottom of the pan. So we're about there, another minute or two and we'll be done. But I hope you can see what I mean about these bubbles. They're clear bubbles now, almost like water bubbles rather than the foam that we were seeing before. And that colour's a really nice golden yellow colour. So we're about done there. I'll just turn the heat off because it will still retain some of its heat. I'll get a little bit, the last bits of this froth off, and we'll be ready for putting into our jars. Well, I've got my little jars ready. I've got my measuring jug and a strainer. If you wanted to get every single last particulate bit out, you could cover that with a cheesecloth. But to be honest, for the amount I'm making, I'm not too worried. So, here we go. You've got to be really careful with this because this is very hot. I did warm these jars up slightly, so it's not going straight into a cold jar and risking cracking. It's whether I can pour this without it going everywhere. The joys of live video. You can see that nice golden brown colour on the bottom, where it's just slightly singeing the butter fats, but that's fine because that gives us a really nice flavour, a kind of a nutty flavour. And that is our ghee, or clarified butter as some people might call it. So out of those 2 blocks of butter, which was 500 grams, half a kilo, I've got 450, just shy of 450, call it 430-ish millilitres, or 16 ounces of the final ghee. All I need to do now is decant it into my jars and it's a job done. So there we are, 3 little jars of ghee. I'll let those cool down, and then once they've cooled down you can see what the final product looks like coming out of the jar. Well, I've left the ghee to cool for a couple of hours and you can see it's now set. So all I need now is something to test it on, and I'm thinking a couple of slices of nice seed bread toast would work the trick. So I'm just waiting for the toaster to finish toasting it, and there we go, as if by magic. So let's dig in. You can see it's a nice firm consistency. There we go, a nice little evening snack. A nice hot toast with our fresh ghee. So, toast with fresh ghee, cooking from our preps. Bon appetit. Well, that's it for this video. I hope there was something in there that was of interest to you. If you did like the video, please do click on the like button. Also feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, welcome any comments, questions or suggestions you might have. Have you heard of ghee, or do you use ghee yourself? What about your other oils and fats? Any tips for everyone as to how you can extend the shelf life? Let's know in the comments section below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.